Live, should be live, already live on Facebook. So I'm just going to wait, Nandan, for one confirmation that we're live on the BRM Facebook page. And as soon as we are, we shall know that we are live. Okay, looks like we are live. And I'm also going to take the liberty this time to record this meeting. We have a choice in Zooms. All right, Nandan, finally, after our ceremonial tech glitches, I think we are live. I'm not going to be sure till we are fully. Your video is still frozen, so I'm dreading bad internet issues. Can you hear me, Nandan? And Navi?
I can hear you fine. You've been frozen for seconds in between, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Looks like it's one of those days.
Yeah.
And yeah, just hoping for the good energies, hoping that the tech challenge call of last 15 minutes is over and we are live. We have an audience on Facebook. So I think looks like I can finally welcome you, Nandan. So welcome. Yeah. Firstly, welcome. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation to this talk.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And yeah, Nandan, I mean, we've shared your description in as a speaker profile, but I think what stands out is 35 years of a lot of diverse experiences across the industry. And here we're inviting you as one of the core members of Mumbai First as well. And like you said, you're a true Mumbaikar at heart. So I think it's also to inspire other Mumbaikars who have experience in the corporate life and in various facets to actually engage with the city. So Nandan, I'm going to start with asking you what makes Mumbai special? Like you're a Mumbaikar at heart. So what about the city stands out for you?
Yeah, in a sense, it's. I should say I'm not just a Mumbaikar at heart. I've got about 2 centuries of Mumbai in my family.
Wow.
And I think it's interesting that people who come here 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago, I think have mostly come here for two reasons. One is because, particularly relative to the rest of the country, there is economic opportunity here. Arguably, just now, if you're in IT, Bangalore might be a better place or something like that. Gurgaon is also good, Hyderabad. But for most of the last half century, Mumbai has been the place to be. Economic. And that's one strong reason for people to come here. But one must remember also that that's not the only reason. I think the Mumbai is socially also attractive, by which I mean that even today, it's probably the best city in India for women to be professionals. If they have to be out at late at night on their own because of work or because they want to party or whatever, it's relatively safe here. But this has been, in fact, the secret of Mumbai's success for the longest time, right? You had people like Sir David Sassoon. He wasn't Sir David, of course, when he arrived in the middle of the 19th century. He and his family had traditionally been treasurers of Baghdad. And then they found that as Jewish people uh, in Baghdad, it suddenly became a little uncomfortable in the middle of the 19th century. And they said, where in the world should we go? And the answer was Mumbai. And therefore you see, the Raymond Bullen Mills, you see the Sassoon dock, you see various Sassoon schools, synagogues, libraries in the name of Sir David. Similarly, there's a famous story of the Tatars, who of course came from Navsari. And originally, Jamshedji Tata came to attend the Elphinstone College, which was the leading college in this part of the world then, and stayed on to make a fortune. And of course, they're the premier industrial house of India after 150 years, and so on. I could talk about people from different communities from within India, such as the Parsis, or from outside India, such as the Baghdadi Jews, or uh, uh, the Chinese who came and set up so many restaurants and shoemaking shops and so forth. The Iranis who gave us our wonderful cafe. Uh, uh, People came here because it was both economically and socially an exciting and open place to be. And I think that's why you're here, and many of our listeners are here too.
I think the spirit of Mumbai is something that draws us, and it's known as the city of dreams. And whenever I speak about Mumbai, or just when we show up from Mumbai to friends from other cities, they always have this "Oh, you're from Mumbai" kind of aura around it.
Yeah,
Uh, well, I think one question, Nandan, I have wondered about is our city the city of dreams, or is it a city of nightmares? And one could look at it both ways, right? There is beautiful things and there are limits. And I'll also bring in Mumbai first here. From what I gather, in '94, it started with trying to create. Last 25 years, it's been building a vision for Mumbai, engaging with government. So where would you see, like, what is the right way to see this? Is this a city of dreams? Is this a city of nightmares? Is it both? And yeah, where does that leave us?
yeah, I think it's both. It's like all of life. Nobody's life anywhere is smooth sailing all the time. And clearly there are downsides to Mumbai. There are friends of mine, including former colleagues at Mumbai First. I actually first got engaged with Mumbai First in 1997 when I was a senior executive with the Kotak Mahindra Group. And Jason Dacunia, who was a previously a colleague from advertising, uh, came to the Kotak and asked him to, did not exactly second me, but give me some time to work with Mumbai First. That's how I started working here, almost 25 years ago now. Um, and I think the point is for organizations like Mumbai First, but not only like Mumbai First, for Blue Ribbon Movement, for each of us as individuals, is to try to enhance the positives and reduce the negatives. And I think one could speak about this being a feature of modernity. Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the way that modern societies have evolved over the last, let's say, since the Industrial Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
they've caused cities to happen. So people have had to leave their traditional uh, social groups and come to cities for work mostly. But then they've had to find their own ways,
Mm-hmm.
find their own ways socially and economically. Hmm? And the whole point is not to just blame it on somebody else, such as the government, or just to pray to some higher power. One
mm,
can
mm,
pray if that's the way one is inclined, but one must also take personal responsibility. Hmm? And that's what I believe BRM is about.
mm, mm.
People young people taking personal responsibility for making their lives and the lives of their fellow citizens better. And I think that's what Mumbai First is about also, except that we probably have about uh, 30 to 50 years on you guys. Uh, the idea is that we've worked on some 9 missions, some of which are to, for example, I was leading missions to try and enhance the economic attractiveness of the city. And by the way, I don't think many people realize that if you look at the Mumbai metropolitan region, then it contributes about 8% of national GDP. Hmm? So it's about 25 million people, and the contribution to
8%.
national GDP is disproportionate, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Any way you count it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the actual manufacturing and services within this 5,000 square kilometer area. We're not talking about Tatas who have plants in Jamshedpur or in northern England or anything like that.
Mm, mm, mm,
We're
mm,
talking about value added in this area.
mm, mm, mm.
Um, so it still remains an attractive place to work, but there are certain negatives, and some of the negatives happen to be, um, mobility can be improved a lot.
Mm, mm,
About 20 years ago, 92% of Mumbaikars got to work using public transport,
mm, mm,
even
mm.
though the trains, which took the brunt of the traffic, were overcrowded even then. Um, but of course, over the last 20 years or so, people have moved away from public transport,
Mm, mm, mm.
partly because of affluence and people wanting to have their private vehicles, partly because we haven't invested as a society sufficiently in expanding the availability and quality of public transport. And I'd like to think that that's something that is being improved right now.
Mm,
Of course, in
mm,
the last 2 years, COVID has meant that many of us would have moved back into our little shells and
mm, mm.
tried not to be in close proximity with a lot of other people. Um, but mobility is certainly one reason. Um, any number of uh, 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 surveys show that the other big issue, which actually is very closely connected, is housing, the cost of housing. But the why I say it's connected is that for sake of discussion, um, I have, for a lot of the time that I was with Kotak, in fact, the entire time that I was with Kotak, I was living at Nariman Point, which is about 15 minutes drive from my home. So sorry, I was working at Nariman Point,
Working at
15 minutes from where I live. I had colleagues who found that the only way to be able to afford decent living for their families was to live in Thane. So they were
mm, mm,
commuting 2 hours each way,
mm, mm, mm,
which I thought was stupendous, and especially because all of us work not less than 12 to 14 hours a day.
mm, mm.
And so that made a very, very long day for some of these
Right.
guys.
Right.
And obviously, if there was a better, greater supply of housing closer to Nariman Point, it could have made these guys' lives and that of their families much better.
True.
And that means that we needed to have invested in housing, and I would say rental housing should have been facilitated. But equally, if they could have had good quality public transport from Thane to Nariman Point rather than having to sit in their chauffeur-driven cars,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
it would have been much better.
True.
And of
True.
course, we know that from London and New York that these such things are quite feasible. Even
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
wealthy professionals uh, commute by public transport over there.
True. 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 Yeah. Yeah, they say in well-developed cities, even the rich use public transport, and that's a
Exactly.
sign of prosperity that it was well planned. So then I think the question that's coming to me is Mumbai first. Ever since I've known it, uh, and Ashank Desai introduced us. Ashank is one of our
I
earliest
remember that.
supporters of Blue Ribbon.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be an overstretch to say we exist because of Ashank's support in its
Already.
early days. Yeah, so he's one of the first people to support our programs and so on.
Mm.
And ever since you've connected to Mumbai First, you've been working very closely with the government, which I would guess is a high leverage point. Your vision with McKinsey also, there was a vision report. I remember when the previous chief minister was there was a consultation with the government. And so while there is work happening with all of you with the government, the question that comes to me is how can citizens then support that work or be in sync? Like, what would you expect from citizens so that both the industry and the government, the sarkar and the bazaar, I would say, since you connected to both in some ways, so I would say समाज से क्या अपेक्षाएं हैं, समाज क्या नहीं कर रहा है या क्या करना चाहिए? What would you say is the role of samaj that?
Yeah. I personally think that there is a huge role for Samaj. Um, and I personally think that Mumbai First has not done enough to engage with people like you and other volunteer groups. And uh, 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 I hope that we will do it much more. Because if you take, for example, one of the concerns which I have, if I say that diversity is important, right? One of the attractive things about a cosmopolitan city like Mumbai is diversity. Firstly, boys, girls. Secondly, it doesn't matter what caste you're from. It doesn't matter which part of the country you're from, etc. Now, these are social norms which happen, which get observed not by discussions between captains of industry and
Mm, mm.
ministers or secretaries in government. It depends upon how you and I behave.
Yes, yes.
Um, Similarly, if I say that women must be able to stay out late for any reason that they may choose to stay out late in public places of Mumbai, then it's up to us as the public, us as the citizens, individuals as well as groups, to make sure that they are safe. You can't just
Right.
say this is the problem of the police
Mm,
and then
mm.
complain because the police doesn't act fast enough, etc. If I believe that my neighborhood must be safe, then maybe I should organize a neighborhood watch. Maybe I should organize, uh, as ALMs have done, they've done cleanup drives. Maybe they should be doing safety drives also,
Yes.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think also this is a good time, Nandan, for me to plug in Blue Ribbon. I've been told that I should do that more unapologetically. So,
Absolutely.
want to share. I think one of the things we're doing right now is a campaign called City of Hope, and we're saying that how do we build more hope, and it's filled with some nice exciting things. We're doing a game where you can have socio-political conversations about Mumbai with your family or in your housing society. So a game is being designed. We're doing a citizen audit where we're actually checking accounts and going back on the ground to verify that the money spent by the corporator from their funds has actually hit the ground. We're doing some actathons which get citizens for a couple of hours and do activities in their locality, trying to come up with a citizen manifesto, and of course these Facebook lives. So one of the things that is also happening in parallel to this is our fundraising. Idea is that citizens must fund this kind of work more than foundations or corporate, because it's our work. We really say that it's ultimately for Blue Ribbon and work which is civic to be sustainable. It is really citizens funding it, and funding it also in the spirit of partnership, not in the spirit of charity. It's not that you're kind of being generous to the cause, but you're really partnering. It's solidarity, really. Like we're saying, don't be charitable. We're not a charitable cause. We're a solidarity cause. And that clarity has emerged. And we're saying, something good's happening. So just want to,
Now,
and Akash will post
I
a
would
link. Yeah.
argue, Abhishek, that this is actually a matter of what I said earlier, which is modernity.
Mhm.
And it's also an act of citizenship, right?
Mm, mm,
Uh,
mm.
um, if I believe that uh, 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 organizations like Blue Ribbon uh, are doing work which I will make my city better, will make my neighborhood better, make my family safer, then I must do some done. But if I can afford it, also I must do some
Absolutely. Some contribution
dhan
to
dan also.
Nandan. Bilkul, bilkul.
Um, so that's very much part of. Uh, and I'd like to speak for a minute about one of my interesting experiences when I was at Kotak. Our partners at that time were Goldman Sachs, and the common uh, talk amongst affluent people in Mumbai is कि मुझे बस धंधा करना है, and I don't want to take any interest in social matters of any sort. I don't want to be labeled an activist, blah blah blah. Now, one of my colleagues from Goldman Sachs, who was at that time a 30-something-year-old young man, he was one of these guys who had, was a complete American elite. He was white, uh, uh, athletic, big built kind of guy who's been through uh, two Ivy Leagues, including the Harvard Business
Wow.
School, and he was on the partnership track to Goldman Sachs, right? Um, and he eventually launched a very successful private equity firm. Now, this guy gave a few weeks every year to campaign for in his home constituency, which was in Colorado. He would go back from wherever in the world he was to campaign for the candidate of his choice for the election.
Wow.
And when you consider that this guy was probably making a couple of million dollars a year, that is
Mm,
a
mm.
very valuable contribution he was making.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
plus, of course, he wrote checks and so on and so forth.
Right.
So this business of मुझे खाली धंधा करना है नहीं चलता है क्योंकि
Mm, mm,
if your city is not safe, your family is not going to be safe,
mm,
your
mm,
body is not going to be safe, your
mm,
shop is not going to be safe.
mm.
So
Yeah.
you really need to protect yourself, and that's what is meant, as I said, by citizenship and by taking responsibility for what is really important to you.
Yeah, I think thanks for sharing that, Nandan, because Euribin's also powered by a lot of citizen volunteers who are professionals. And then they're trying to do their professions in a way that they can do up to 10 to 15 hours of work in Blue Ribbon and high quality managerial work. So I'm going to just give a shout out. All of you know who you are. So thank you for powering Blue Ribbon that way. And I think Mumbai First also, right? Like all of you who have come together are coming out of a sense of goodwill and betterment of the city. From what I gather, it is initiative of prominent citizens.
Yeah, it's mostly been people who are much more rich and famous than me, and Ashank Desai, for example, and Mumbai First was actually launched by senior industrialists, and the initial somewhat naive belief was that government might not know what citizens were concerned about and could use help with ideating what those solutions might be. So some of the best known industrialists in Mumbai, again, they know who they are, um, have spent weeks of their very valuable time working on, uh, you know, uh, uh, one of the most famous Indian industrialists who's got, chairs a global company, spent weeks figuring out how to handle the solid waste management system of this city.
Mm, mm,
And he produced this wonderful report, and we made a presentation of it in the government of Maharashtra, and then it went nowhere.
mm.
And I think the reason for this is because actually it's not just a matter of ideas and problems, it's also a matter of creating the political capital to put
Mm,
behind it. If there is no demand for your streets to be clean,
Yes.
if there is no demand that money not be stolen from the public works contracts in your city,
Yeah. Yeah.
then why would anybody deliver it?
True. 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 True.
So really, we as citizens need to not only come up with ideas, which we must not only do Shramdan, but we must also put
Build.
some demand, build a
Put some.
consensus that certain things are do without. For example, security is uh, 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 both against internal and external threats is a prime reason for government's existence.
Right.
Otherwise, they've got really no moral right to collect taxes from us.
Yeah. 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 In fact, Nandan, from what you're sharing, also we have such a long way to go in citizen activism because right now the way we know how to make our demands met is also in many times through political parties. Like if I need a share a auto rickshaw stand, mobilizing citizens might not be enough. I may have to go to a political party saying I have citizens and then using that as a channel to make something on the ground happen. Fewer examples of citizens themselves. Like there are definitely pockets in the city where citizens directly could get the administration to act, but many times citizens kind of lobby political parties then to see things. So I think a strong citizenry would mean that they can impact things on the ground on their own strength, not really have to rely there
Yeah,
on party.
basically, another one of my friends who's been very successful in India was previously a senior executive with a American multinational in Connecticut. And he says, uh, my senator would come around to my home on Sunday morning,
Wow.
asking me not only for my vote, but for what concerned me. What could I, what could he work upon?
Yeah.
I'm saying that's a functioning democracy,
Wow.
right? So
Yes.
we don't
Yes.
go on our knees to our elected representatives. We can by all means go to our elected representatives, or we can go to our appointed paid officials,
Yeah.
but it should be as that this is what their job is.
Yes.
Not that we are begging them for uh, uh, something that
Favor.
ought to be ours by right.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
fact is that not everything which I demand uh, uh, can be given to me, because there are competing interests,
Yeah.
and there is a need to balance those out.
Mm.
But uh, uh, that we need to create an active citizenship which can speak in that spirit.
Definitely. Uh, yeah, I mean, like one of the things that as the elections are coming, which would be early next year or maybe a few months late because of COVID, we're really saying what all can be done by citizens, because there's one set of citizens who do not even know who their counselor is or where they are actually located. And for them, even registering as voters, finding things out, like that's kind of level one. Level two is organization like Praja, Agni, and others are building data so that you know what's going on, who are the candidates, and so on. So there is that. And then, of course, the most active citizens can do audits and actually be on WhatsApp with their counselors. So there's a whole range of things I think that we're inviting
That's right.
people into doing. Two questions,
But there's
Nandan.
another point,
Yeah.
since you're talking about these elections, there are a couple of structural issues that I'd like to indicate, to explain
Sure.
them in detail. We'll take another conference. Um, but basically, the co- municipal corporation of Greater Mumbai, which is what the elections that you're referring to are for, was constituted over 100 years ago, right? Much has changed since then, including technology for getting work done better. Really, to put it in brief, if we want to have a modern city, we need a modern administration. And there are models that we have, whether they're in New York or London or elsewhere. And there are domestic studies which have been done by people such as Mumbai First or McKinsey or think tanks in Delhi and so forth. Again, it's I think citizens need to take an interest in some of these and demand that uh, uh, decisions be made to implement some of these. Hmm? For example, I think it's a gross failure of administration that we cannot get a police complaint registered in reasonable time. And as we all know, what happens after, if a FR is filed, and that's a painful enough task if you don't know. I've had the misfortune of going through it more than once. But then, of course, to actually get the case to court and get heard and come to a conclusion is a painful process. Now, as I
Yes.
say, there are ways of making it all easier, and really, it takes us to insist that it must get done.
True. True. Yeah,
Sorry,
I
you were
think.
saying.
No, I mean, this reminds me that when we had met early days of Blue Ribbon, I think this is 2011, 12, we had met Shailesh Gandhi, and we asked Shailesh ji, like, what needs to be done? Tell us. And we thought he'll say something very far out. He said we need to computerize stuff. And we went blank saying what? So he's like, yeah, things are not computerized right now. Records, we assume everything is online, but for the government, a lot is still not online. And now, like 8, 9 years later, when you're doing citizen audits, we're realizing that you get these files. You can't like query a database, for example. You get these files. So, I mean, we have a long way. And I guess pushing for modernization and pushing for, I think public pressure is definitely key
Yeah.
in demanding. So,
No,
two
it's
questions.
shocking. You're talking about files, land record. When Mr. Vajpayee was prime minister, McKinsey uh, uh, pro- suggested a few fairly simple measures to the Prime Minister Vajpayee, which would add 10% to India's GDP.
Wow. Okay.
And the biggest single contributor, believe it or not, to that 10% was improving land records. Because believe it or not only are actually now the land records are to a great extent uh, computerized, but on the least friendly possible computer systems you can imagine,
Okay.
and possibly deliberate. But the fact is that the underlying system, believe it or not, were invented by the Mughals 500 years ago,
Whoa. Okay.
and mostly for the purpose or not of determining who owns any land, but for determining who they could collect taxes from, land
Hmm.
revenue. Slightly different thing, right? So you might own the land, but I might say, hey, I'm willing to pay that tax. So your name doesn't get entered, mine does. And
Hmm.
then if you need to push me out, you can be sitting in the court for, uh, as people have done for a century and more.
Hmm.
So fairly obvious and basic things
Yet to happen.
need to be
Yeah.
done.
True. True. So two questions popped up, Nandan, and you can choose which ones to answer. I think one was that Mumbaikars tend to be busy and life is complex. Life in Mumbai is strenuous, draining. And I've often wondered, like, what's a reasonable expectation from a citizen to engage? I look at people like you, or I look at so many citizens who are able to juggle or post their professional lives, have taken on this work, the work for the society. And we've been talking about what it is to volunteer. It gives people purpose. And so I think one question is really, what will it take for us to have more and more people care or action their care? Like maybe lots of people care, but citizens are not acting on their care. So maybe I'll pause at the first question itself, saying that how is it that some people are taking actions, they're giving out their discretionary effort and time, many others are not, and should we give them the benefit of doubt, or should we do something to bring them on the ground, like in the play field?
So on the whole, I wouldn't like to tell anybody else what they should be doing with their time or priority. But it's to give the Goldman Sachs partner partners example. It's not being busy which matters, right? Any busy person, if there is a family emergency, will find time to uh,
Yes.
go to the hospital or whatever it takes. Yeah. The point is to decide that civic issues are that important,
Hmm.
and they often can be, right? Uh,
Yes.
um, if your local municipal clinic or your municipal school was of a sufficient quality so that even a middle class person like you would be happy to use them, it could change your life dramatically.
Yes.
So, whatever else you might be busy with, why wouldn't you want to try and make that happen? And I
Yes.
think the answer to that is that there's a been in, to some extent, I must say it's my generation's fault, right? There was a period of rule by whoever, whether it was uh, 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 kings, where it was British emperors, whoever it was, and maybe we didn't have much control over the space then. We only took responsibility for what was happening within our home. But clearly, as I said, in cities, and particularly since independence, we've had the ability to influence what happens in the public space. And I think my generation has failed to take that responsibility. And I hope people like you will find other models. Look perhaps even at people who have had a longer history of democracy and see how it works. It doesn't work on autopilot. It doesn't work by saying somebody else will do it. It doesn't work by sucking up to your elected representative.
Yes. True. True. And in fact, Nandan, I want to share this one. We were doing a pilot of this Actathon. Actathon is a 1 day format where you come in for a few hours, you're oriented about how to file complaints. Then you're sent out into the public to actually do that and come back and you debrief, reflect, and what you've been accomplishing. When we did it with our alumni, we did about 190 complaints in that first run. People took motorbikes and they went all around clicking photos, and our experience with the government has been fairly positive. When we do it on 1916 or Aple Sarkar, the portal, people actually make it a point. There have been cases where our volunteers have been called to the site to kind of close the loop, saying here it is resolved, or here this part belongs to the railways, so we cannot do anything about it. So we've had a very, and broadly, we've had a positive response, a positive experience when we engage. I think that's one more thing that we're trying to do, which is reduce the barrier, because perhaps people also wonder, saying, will my action really create an impact? And we're saying, yes, it does. And
If
we're
you're
kind
willing
of,
to,
we are the
if you're
evidence.
if you're willing to follow up on it,
Yes, if you're willing
if
to
you
follow up
if
and
all you're going to do is get onto the app and take a photograph,
yeah, it doesn't fully,
it
yeah,
may not
yeah.
happen.
Yeah. And again, yeah, so that's a part of Blue Ribbon's work, really creating that inspiration in young people. So that, and we've seen that once a young person does something, their relationship with the city changes because now they're believers. They're like, we can do this. And they keep kind of stepping up what they can do for the city. So I think that's kind of the process we're trying to
Yeah.
spark with young
And
people.
in the bargain, of course, they would increase their self belief
Definitely.
and
Yes.
become winners in all their aspects of life.
Yes. Definitely become better leaders. So that's one more shout out to support this work with Blue Ribbon. And for the future generations also, I think a lot of, I mean, I also feel, I mean, for me, most of Blue Ribbon is like 10, 15 years now younger to me. So we're seeing late millennials and early Gen Z. And we're very happy because they are people who care. Like I can see that because of climate change and because of inequality and all these things, they're so much more aware and willing to act. And that's really, it's nice. I think with every generation builds on top of the other.
That's
And
really
so we know
encouraging.
we're standing on, yeah, we're standing also on the work of previous generations. So that's encouraging. We are actually on time, but I'm tempted to ask a few more questions, Nandan. So is it okay if we overshoot by 10 minutes? Because
Yeah,
the
I'm
time.
okay with that.
Okay, great. So I hope, yeah, I'll take that.
Your listeners
Minute.
may or may
Yeah,
not.
but the great thing about this is that this will be available so people can go back and also listen. And we found people who are not listening live still also go back and
Mhm,
listen. So
mhm.
then one question that was coming to me, particularly with Gen Z, I have a 14-year-old daughter and very strong environmentalist. This generation is like completely strong on environment. we've had movements like RA where what Blue Ribbon did was to not actively participate, but stand in solidarity, give them space to come and talk, because we also said we want to focus on constructive action. And then there's the coastal road, which has gone 4 times its budget. Very recently in Daisar, the river rejuvenation just started, like the Bhumi Pujan happened and so on. And I'm just wondering about this whole ecology and kind of development kind of question, which is definitely going to keep coming to us in various forms, right? Like as ecology, roads being built or forests being cleared for development. And RA was an example there. Coastal Road was also, some citizen groups protested. So just wondering, what is that right equilibrium? How does one find that equilibrium? How does one engage in a way that it doesn't reach these points of great unrest, protest? Like, can we preempt these? Can we? I don't know. How do I answer my daughter saying, "Are you so concerned about your commute time that you're going to cut out the forest?" Like, I'm wondering what's your thought process? Also, because you come from both the industry and the government experience, and like, how do we not make these problems happen even?
Yeah. I also spent some time uh, in the 1980s at the Indian Institute of Public Administration and at the Ministry of Environment and Forests, as it was called then, struggling with some of these issues. And the answer is that we must find creative ways of not making it ecology or economy. We have to find ways to make it both, right? So right now, for example, this whole challenge of uh, uh, green energy will will actually generate huge economic opportunity. So that's one at a sort of macro level. The answer is that it cannot be one against the other.
Hmm.
And on the whole, you'll have noticed, for example, um, if you read about early industrialization in the West, if you like fiction, then you read Dickens. If you want non-fiction, you can read any number of sociologists. Early industrialization anywhere created a mess. But as people became more affluent, they began to use that affluence to treat that mess. And therefore, you've got, for example, Austria, which has got just about the cleanest air in the world and the best water in the world. Um, so, similarly, the fact is that if we take Mumbai today, one of the environment problems which worries me personally as an asthmatic is the quality of air. Um, and it would seem to me that a large part of the quality of the poor quality air, which by the way has got uh, really worse in the last 20 to 30 years, which is within my working life, has been because on the one hand, people have, uh, for reasons that we've already spoken about, moved away from public transport. And secondly, because whereas we don't have stubble burning as there is in North India, we have this peculiar practice, which I haven't quite fathomed in the Mumbai metropolitan region and nearby, of straw burning. So people believe that they should burn the post monsoon straw, but even on hillside, because it somehow uh, uh, improves the fertility of the land, it improves the air, believe it or not. Actually, it's the opposite. The fact is that uh,
Use.
plowing that straw into the earth would probably fertilize it better. And the smoke which is produced by burning actually pollutes the air and not
Mm, mm.
use it. Um, but there are these things. So the point which I'm making is that there must be ways of understanding these beliefs and finding ways, not only technical but social, which will obviate these problems.
Sure, sure.
And that clearly includes the rivers of Mumbai and the marine life of our shores, etc.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that uh, and as a thing rather than an or, and insisting on the creativity and the imagination is key. So my last question is a little bit of like the coffee with Karan style question, because you're standing with such an extensive experience, Nandan, of the world, of social change, of so much. And I see myself more as a middle generation because most of the listeners here are like on average 10 to 15 years younger than me. And I think on their behalf, what are the two, three kind of pointers that you would give saying, guys, do this, and this? There's lots to do. And yet, if there is certain priority, what would your top two, three do this kind of pointers be, or focus on these issues from your wish list?
So, I was privileged to have worked in more than one country, educated in more than one country, etc. And people have often asked me why I came back because many of my generation did not. And I've always said that India is a land of opportunity. Obviously, some people have found it to be economic opportunity. And in my working life, new billionaires have come out of nowhere. But the opportunity I was speaking about is actually the opportunity to improve life, improve society, contribute to the happiness of oneself and others. Because there are just so many things that can be done, ranging from protecting the uh, mangroves to finding solutions for the straw burning in the MMR. Um, to, of course, protecting women in the street, to making courts more efficient. But it at the end of it, as we've been saying, is just not good ideas. It's good ideas with follow up, with enthusiasm, with getting the political capital.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of this is not stuff that happens unless you're really engaged head and heart. And if I was to give you my list of 5 things, it might some of those things may mean nothing to you. I hope that we would find some common items. The environment is an obvious one. I hope social justice is another. Um, but there will be something which may be much more personal to you, especially I would say in your local area. If there is an open sewer which gushes untreated sewage onto your street, please try and fix that as soon as you can. You know, there's just so many things to be done in Mumbai, and
Mm.
just pick the ones that you can uh, uh, really keep going at. That will make it worth your while waking up in the morning and going at it.
Mm.
I hope that the work that you do full time to earn a living is also exciting, but some of this voluntary work can be equally exciting, as I'm sure that your audience knows.
Definitely, and they're already doing it. So I love that you're saying head and heart together. It's not just ideas, but action, follow up, and both local and at a cause level. So I think the hope is that many people and many young people also do that. And I want to also do a shout out for Mumbai First, because when I first got to know about Mumbai First, I felt a sense of I felt nice knowing that there's a group of very well intentioned, very successful people, very privileged people who are trying and working and lobbying the government and really kind of have the cities back in whichever way they can. And so that was great. So I want to just acknowledge Mumbai First for being at it for 25 years, putting out ideas, visions. The website has some amazing, inspiring documents which people can go and download and really see what kind of dreams have been seen for the city, not just like in the air, but very informed, thought through dreams and aspirations. So, want to acknowledge that. Want to also remind you one last time: Blue Ribbon Movement is on its fundraising, on its crowdfunding sort of drive. It's on Milap. The links are also going to be shared on the chat. So please show up and contribute. It's solidarity, more the merrier, and more the money the merrier. It allows us to support our work. So please do contribute to Blue Ribbon's work so that you see more of this happen. And finally, thank you, Nandan, for taking out time for sharing everything from the history to your experiences. It's been a joy having this conversation. Thank you.
Abhishek, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, and hope to stay in touch with you and by first as well.
Certainly. Good night.
Thanks a lot. Good night.